1. Remember to look up at the stars and not down at your feet. 2. Never give up work. Work gives you meaning and purpose, and life is empty without it. 3. If you are lucky enough to find love, remember it is there and don't throw it away. We are just an advanced breed of monkeys on a minor planet of a very average star. But we can understand the universe. That makes us something very special. Quiet people have the loudest minds. Life would be tragic if it weren't funny. Intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. Even if there is only one possible unified theory, it is just a set of rules and equations. What is it that breathes fire into the equations and makes a universe for them to describe? The usual approach of science of constructing a mathematical model cannot answer the questions of why there should be a universe for the model to describe. Why does the universe go to all the bother of existing? Stephen Hawking, A Brief History of Time. For millions of years, mankind lived just like the animals. Then something happened which unleashed the power of our imagination. We learned to talk and we learned to listen. Speech has allowed the communication of ideas, enabling human beings to work together to build the impossible. Mankind's greatest achievements have come about by talking, and its greatest failures by not talking. It doesn't have to be like this. Our greatest hopes could become reality in the future. With the technology at our disposal, the possibilities are unbounded. All we need to do is make sure we keep talking. Remember to look up at the stars and not down at your feet. Try to make sense of what you see and wonder about what makes the universe exist. Be curious. And however difficult life may seem, there is always something you can do and succeed at. It matters that you don't just give up. It surprises me how disinterested we are today about things like physics, space, the universe, and philosophy of our existence, our purpose, our final destination. It's a crazy world out there. Be curious. My expectations were reduced to zero when I was 21. Everything since then has been a bonus. The victim should have the right to end his life, if he wants. But I think it would be a great mistake. However bad life may seem, there is always something you can do, and succeed at. While there's life, there is hope. I have noticed that even those who assert that everything is predestined and that we can change nothing about it still look both ways before they cross the street. Stephen Hawking, Black Holes and Baby Universes and Other Essays. I believe the simplest explanation is, there is no God. No one created the universe and no one directs our fate. This leads me to a profound realization that there probably is no heaven and no afterlife either. We have this one life to appreciate the grand design of the universe, and for that, I am extremely grateful. One of the basic rules of the universe is that nothing is perfect. Perfection simply doesn't exist. Without imperfection, neither you nor I would exist. In the universe it may be that primitive life is very common and intelligent life is fairly rare. Some would say it has yet to occur on Earth. I think computer viruses should count as life. I think it says something about human nature that the only form of life we have created so far is purely destructive. We've created life in our own image. The universe doesn't allow perfection. My goal is simple. It is a complete understanding of the universe, why it is as it is and why it exists at all. The role played by time at the beginning of the universe is, I believe, the final key to removing the need for a grand designer, and revealing how the universe created itself. Time itself must come to a stop. You can't get to a time before the Big Bang, because there was no time before the Big Bang. We have finally found something that does not have a cause because there was no time for a cause to exist in. For me this means there is no possibility of a creator because there is no time for a creator to have existed. Since time itself began at the moment of the Big Bang, it was an event that could not have been caused or created by anyone or anything. So when people ask me if a God created the universe, I tell them the question itself makes no sense. Time didn't exist before the Big Bang, so there is no time for God to make the universe in. It's like asking for directions to the edge of the earth. The earth is a sphere. It does not have an edge, so looking for it is a futile exercise. There is a fundamental difference between religion, which is based on authority, and science, which is based on observation and reason. Science will win because it works. When people ask me if a God created the universe, I tell them that the question itself makes no sense. Time didn't exist before the Big Bang, so there is no time for God to make the universe in. It's like asking directions to the edge of the earth. The earth is a sphere, it doesn't have an edge, so looking for it is a futile exercise. We are each free to believe what we want, and it's my view that the simplest explanation is, there is no God. No one created our universe and no one directs our fate. This leads me to a profound realization: there is probably no heaven, and no afterlife either. We have this one life to appreciate the grand design of the universe, and for that I am extremely grateful. Although I cannot move and I have to speak through a computer, in my mind I am free. Stephen Hawking, Sagan an Hangsang Marie Ro Ha Ranane 1/4 Ga, Hoking Paksa Ai Chimi Ina En Che Izanujuran. If time travel is possible, where are the tourists from the future? People who boast about their IQ are losers. The thing about smart people is that they seem like crazy people to dumb people. I'm not afraid of death, but I'm in no hurry to die. The downside of my celebrity is that I cannot go anywhere in the world without being recognized. It is not enough for me to wear dark sunglasses and a wig. The wheelchair gives me away. Not only does God play dice, but He sometimes throws them where they cannot be seen. Remember to look up at the stars and not down at your feet. Never give up work. Work gives you meaning and purpose, and life is empty without it. If you are lucky enough to find love, remember it is there and don't throw it away. I don't think the human race will survive the next 1,000 years, unless we spread into space. So Einstein was wrong when he said, God does not play dice. Consideration of black holes suggests, not only that God does play dice, but that He sometimes confuses us by throwing them where they can't be seen. You cannot understand the glories of the universe without believing there is some supreme power behind it. Ever since the dawn of civilization, people have not been content to see events as unconnected and inexplicable. They have craved an understanding of the underlying order in the world. Today we still yearn to know why we are here and where we came from. Humanity's deepest desire for knowledge is justification enough for our continuing quest. And our goal is nothing less than a complete description of the universe we live in. I regard the afterlife to be a fairy story for people that are afraid of the dark. Nothing is better than reading and gaining more and more knowledge. To confine our attention to terrestrial matters would be to limit the human spirit. We only have to look at ourselves to see how intelligent life might develop into something we wouldn't want to meet. If aliens ever visit us, I think the outcome would be much as when Christopher Columbus first landed in America, which didn't turn out very well for the Native Americans. It matters if you just don't give up. However bad life may seem, there is always something you can do and succeed at. Where there's life, there's hope. What I have done is to show that it is possible for the way the universe began to be determined by the laws of science. In that case, it would not be necessary to appeal to God to decide how the universe began. This doesn't prove that there is no God, only that God is not necessary. The idea of 10 dimensions might sound exciting, but they would cause real problems if you forget where you parked your car. Stephen Hawking, The Grand Design. The human capacity for guilt is such that people can always find ways to blame themselves. I like physics, but I love cartoons. If there really is a complete unified theory that governs everything, It presumably also determines your actions. But it does so in a way that is impossible to calculate for an organism that is as complicated as a human being. The reason we say that humans have free will is because we can't predict what they will do. Only time, whatever that may be, will tell. The increase of disorder or entropy is what distinguishes the past from the future, giving a direction to time. I'm not afraid of death, but I'm in no hurry to die. I have so much I want to do first. One is always a long way from solving a problem until one actually has the answer. Time and space are finite in extent, but they don't have any boundary or edge. They would be like the surface of the Earth, but with 2 more dimensions. Stephen W. Hawking, Black Holes and Baby Universes and Other Essays. So remember to look up at the stars and not down at your feet. Try to make sense of what you see and wonder about what makes the universe exist. Be curious. And however difficult life may seem, there is always something you can do and succeed at. It matters that you don't just give up. Unleash your imagination. Shape the future. Stephen Hawking, Brief Answers to the Big Questions. Government works best under the glare of public scrutiny. Absent such scrutiny, abuses occur. Eternity is a long time, especially towards the end. We are in danger of destroying ourselves by our greed and stupidity. We cannot remain looking inwards at ourselves on a small and increasingly polluted and overcrowded planet. Be brave, be curious, be determined, overcome the odds. It can be done. Any physical theory is always provisional, in the sense that it is only a hypothesis. You can never prove it. No matter how many times the results of experiments agree with some theory, you can never be sure that the next time the result will not contradict the theory. God abhors a naked singularity. If the government is covering up knowledge of aliens, they are doing a better job of it than they do at anything else. When we see the Earth from space, we see ourselves as a whole. We see the unity, and not the divisions. It is such a simple image with a compelling message: one planet, one human race. I regard the brain as a computer which will stop working when its components fail. There is no heaven or afterlife for broken down computers. That is a fairy story for people afraid of the dark. The human race does not have a very good record of intelligent behavior. Simplicity is a matter of taste. Thus, in a sense, we are all doomed. Even if we stay away from black holes. We each exist for but a short time, and in that time explore but a small part of the whole universe. What did God do before he created the universe? In the 18th century, philosophers considered the whole of human knowledge, including science, to be their field and discussed questions such as, did the universe have a beginning? However, in the 19th and 20th centuries, science became too technical and mathematical for the philosophers, or anyone else except a few specialists. Philosophers reduced the scope of their inquiries so much that Wittgenstein, the most famous philosopher of this century, said, "The sole remaining task for philosophy is the analysis of language." What a come down from the great tradition of philosophy from Aristotle to Kant. There could be whole anti-worlds and anti-people made out of anti-particles. However, if you meet your anti-self, don't shake hands. You would both vanish in a great flash of light. People won't have time for you if you are always angry or complaining. The rate of progress is so rapid that what one learns at school or university is always a bit out of date. Only a few people can keep up with the rapidly advancing frontier of knowledge, and they have to devote their whole time to it and specialize in a small area. The rest of the population has little idea of the advances that are being made, or the excitement they are generating. We find ourselves in a bewildering world. We want to make sense of what we see around us and to ask, what is the nature of the universe? What is our place in it and where did it and we come from? Why is it the way it is? The whole history of science has been the gradual realization that events do not happen in an arbitrary manner, but that they reflect a certain underlying order, which may or may not be divinely inspired. Today we'll still yearn to know why we are here and where we came from. Humanity's deepest desire for knowledge is justification enough for our continuing quest. And our goal is nothing less than a complete description of the universe we live in. While there's life, there is hope. Women. They are a complete mystery to me. There should be no boundaries to human endeavor. We are all different. However bad life may seem, there is always something you can do, and succeed at. While there's life, there is hope. As we shall see, the concept of time has no meaning before the beginning of the universe. This was first pointed out by Saint Augustine. When asked, what did God do before he created the universe? Augustine didn't reply, he was preparing hell for people who ask such questions. Let us fight for every woman and every man to have the opportunity to live healthy, secure lives, full of opportunity and love. We are all time travelers, journeying together into the future. But let us work together to make that future a place we want to visit. What you have told us is rubbish. The world is really a flat plate supported on the back of a giant tortoise. Stephen W. Hawking, A Briefer History of Time. I have spent my life traveling across the universe, inside my mind. Einstein never accepted that the universe was governed by chance. His feelings were summed up in his famous statement, God does not play dice. We got through all of Genesis and part of Exodus before I left. One of the main things I was taught from this was not to begin a sentence with "and." I pointed out that most sentences in the Bible began with "and," but I was told that English had changed since the time of King James. In that case, I argued, why make us read the Bible? But it was in vain. Robert Graves was very keen on the symbolism and mysticism in the Bible at that time. Mankind's greatest achievements have come about by talking and its greatest failures by not talking. It doesn't have to be like this. Le persone silenzio sono quel che hanno le menti pia superscript 1 rumorosa. You cannot predict the future. If one is physically disabled, one cannot afford to be psychologically disabled as well. People want answers to the big questions, like why we are here. They don't expect the answers to be easy, so they are prepared to struggle a bit. When people ask me if a God created the universe, I tell them that the question itself makes no sense. Time didn't exist before the Big Bang, so there is no time for God to make the universe in. It's like asking for directions to the edge of the earth. The earth is a sphere that doesn't have an edge, so looking for it is a futile exercise. Do I have faith? We are each free to believe what we want, and it's my view that the simplest explanation is that there is no God. No one created the universe and no one directs our fate. This leads me to a profound realization: there is probably no heaven and afterlife either. I think belief in an afterlife is just wishful thinking. There is no reliable evidence for it, and it flies in the face of everything we know in science. I think that when we die we return to dust. But there's a sense in which we live on, in our influence, and in our genes that we pass on to our children. We have this one life to appreciate the grand design of the universe, and for that I am extremely grateful. Many people do not like the idea that time has a beginning, probably because it smacks of divine intervention. The Catholic Church, on the other hand, seized on the Big Bang model and in 1951 officially pronounced it to be in accordance with the Bible. No matter how powerful a computer you have, if you put lousy data in you will get lousy predictions out. As those who have seen Jurassic Park will know, this means a tiny disturbance in one place can cause a major change in another. A butterfly flapping its wings can cause rain in Central Park, New York. The trouble is, it is not repeatable. The next time the butterfly flaps its wings, a host of other things will be different, which will also influence the weather. That is why weather forecasts are so unreliable. A theory is a good theory if it satisfies two requirements. It must accurately describe a large class of observations on the basis of a model that contains only a few arbitrary elements, and it must make definite predictions about the results of future observations. There is no way that we can predict the weather 6 months ahead beyond giving the seasonal average. It's the gravity that shapes the large-scale structure of the universe, even though it is the weakest of 4 categories of forces. Stephen Hawking, A Briefer History of Time. I am just a child who has never grown up. I still keep asking these how and why questions. Occasionally, I find an answer. U, O plus or minus OU. OO plus or minus OUOEOU. UOEOUOO plus or minus UO degree UOEO plus or minus UOU 3/4 degree UOEO plus or minus UU copyright UOOUO plus or minus UOUOEUOUUOEOUUOO plus or minus UOOUOEUOEOU copyright UUOOUOUO superscript 1 UOEOUOEU copyright UOU. UUOEOO degree UUUOEO plus or minus UOO superscript 2 OUUOUUOEO plus or minus U. If you are disabled, it is probably not your fault, but it is no good blaming the world or expecting it to take pity on you. One has to have a positive attitude and must make the best of the situation that one finds oneself in. If one is physically disabled, one cannot afford to be psychologically disabled as well. In my opinion, one should concentrate on activities in which one's physical disability will not present a serious handicap. I am afraid that Olympic Games for the disabled do not appeal to me, but it is easy for me to say that because I never liked athletics anyway. On the other hand, science is a very good area for disabled people because it goes on mainly in the mind. Of course, most kinds of experimental work are probably ruled out for most such people, but theoretical work is almost ideal. My disabilities have not been a significant handicap in my field, which is theoretical physics. Indeed, they have helped me in a way by shielding me from lecturing and administrative work that I would otherwise have been involved in. I have managed, however, only because of the large amount of help I have received from my wife, children, colleagues, and students. I find that people in general are very ready to help, but you should encourage them to feel that their efforts to aid you are worthwhile by doing as well as you possibly can. Stephen Hawking, George's Cosmic Treasure Hunt. Traditionally these are questions for philosophy, but philosophy is dead. Philosophy has not kept up with modern developments in science, particularly physics. Scientists have become the bearers of the torch of discovery in our quest for knowledge. The universe in a nutshell. Not to take this web of dualities as a sign we are on the right track would be a bit like believing that God put fossils into the rocks in order to mislead Darwin about the evolution of life. We believe human beings have existed for only a small fraction of cosmic history, because human race has been improving so rapidly in knowledge and technology that if people had been around for millions of years, the human race would be much further along in its mastery. It is hard to imagine how free will can operate if our behavior is determined by physical law, so it seems that we are no more than biological machines and that free will is just an illusion. The most remarkable property of the universe is that it has spawned creatures able to ask questions. Stephen Hawking, Illustrated Theory of Everything, The Origin and Fate of the Universe. It is said that there's no such thing as a free lunch. But the universe is the ultimate free lunch. I have noticed even people who claim everything is predestined, and that we can do nothing to change it, look before they cross the road. I am very aware of the preciousness of time. Seize the moment. Act now. Intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. In this way, Edwin Hubble worked out the distances to 9 different galaxies. We now know that our galaxy is only one of some 100,000 million that can be seen using modern telescopes, each galaxy itself containing some 100,000 million stars. The people who actually make the advances in theoretical physics don't think in these categories that the philosophers and the historians of science subsequently invent for them. Or in other words, why does disorder increase in the same direction of time as that in which the universe expands? Stephen William Hawking CHCBEFRSFRSA, January 8, 1942 to March 14, 2018, was an English theoretical physicist, cosmologist, and author who was Director of Research at the Centre for Theoretical Cosmology at the University of Cambridge at the time of his death 1998. He was the Lucasian Professor of Mathematics at the University of Cambridge between 1979 and 2009. Hawking was born in Oxford, into a family of doctors. He began his university education at University College, Oxford, in October 1959 at the age of 17, where he received a first-class BA degree in physics. He began his graduate work at Trinity Hall, Cambridge, in October 1962, where he obtained his PhD degree in applied mathematics and theoretical physics, specializing in general relativity and cosmology in March 1966. In 1963, Hawking was diagnosed with an early-onset slow-progressing form of motor neuron disease that gradually paralyzed him over the decades. 2021. After the loss of his speech, he communicated through a speech-generating device, initially through use of a handheld switch, and eventually by using a single cheek muscle. Hawking's scientific works included a collaboration with Roger Penrose on gravitational singularity theorems in the framework of general relativity and the theoretical prediction that black holes emit radiation, often called Hawking radiation. Initially, Hawking radiation was controversial. By the late 1970s and following the publication of further research, the discovery was widely accepted as a significant breakthrough in theoretical physics. Hawking was the first to set out a theory of cosmology explained by a union of the general theory of relativity and quantum mechanics. He was a vigorous supporter of the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. 2223. Hawking achieved commercial success with several works of popular science in which he discussed his theories and cosmology in general. His book A Brief History of Time appeared on the Sunday Times bestseller list for a record-breaking 237 weeks. Hawking was a Fellow of the Royal Society, a lifetime member of the Pontifical Academy of Sciences, and a recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian award in the United States. In 2002, Hawking was ranked number 25 in the BBC's poll of the 100 Greatest Britons. He died on March 14, 2018 at the age of 76, after living with motor neuron disease for more than 50 years. Thank you and be well.